All right, what's up, guys? Farzin Vasugian here with you for an episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. It is a Sunday episode, not a game day episode, at least not for the Chiefs, but we are live because we now know the matchups on the AFC side for the divisional round. The Kansas City Chiefs will play host to the Houston Texans. It's either going to be on a Saturday or a Sunday. No, we do not know the dates. It's likely not going to be announced until late Sunday or early Monday. And I'm sure I don't know what the over-under is on how many times I'm going to get asked that during this podcast. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot because I know a lot of people are going to be going in and out of the chat. And that's going to be the only thing people want to ask. That and I'm sure many other things. But we'll wait on the time. We don't know when it's going to be announced officially, but we'll let it come out when it comes out. As far as the matchup itself, got some things to discuss. Obviously, the first time these two teams played, this was one that I had a little bit of a concern about, if you guys recall, back in mid-December when we were breaking this game down. The Chiefs, they were facing a Texans defense that was top 5 and finished the regular season in the top 5 in both takeaways and sacks. If you guys recall in that game, the Kansas City Chiefs did not give away the ball once, and Patrick Mahomes was sacked just once in this football game here. Chiefs put up 27 points. Obviously, you know, the big deal out there, they're the only team above 500 that had not surpassed the 30-point mark. They scored 30 points in the Bucs game in overtime, but had not scored more than 30 points in a game this year. But this was considered the best game the Chiefs had played all year. And then obviously they followed up with an even better performance 5 days later when they played the Steelers. But at the time, a lot of people were impressed with this Chiefs offense. DeAndre Hopkins got more involved with the team, obviously getting more familiar with the playbook. That was also Hollywood Brown's debut with the Chiefs. He caught 5 passes in this one for 45 yards. Samaje Perine was a big part of the passing game as well. Xavier Worthy, he continued to get more and more involved, and this was a big part of the season where he was continuing to get more touches and just get more involved with the Chiefs offense. He caught 7 passes for 65 yards and also had a touchdown in that game. Kareem Hunt, a pretty good day for him on the ground, rushing 5 yards per carry off 11 carries. Isaiah Pacheco got involved as well, but his yard per carry average was pretty low. But Kareem Hunt helped the Chiefs in those short yardage situations, which is really what he's been good at this year. I know Hunt has not necessarily thrived when it comes to the stats this year for the Chiefs, and that's not necessarily what the Chiefs need out of him. Because keep in mind, at the time when the Chiefs brought in Hunt, they were without Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Isaiah Pacheco, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and now he's playing with all of these guys, except for Rice, who suffered injuries in the preseason or early on in the year. So now you have all these players coming together, and they played another good game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And could the Chiefs have scored more in that game? Yeah, possibly, but they didn't feel the need to do so. They had the number 1 seed wrapped up, and obviously in those situations, you do not care to put up a lot of points. You don't want to put anything on film. Andy Reid is very strict on not putting things on film if he doesn't have to. And I think in the past that's maybe hurt him at times and has led to some collapses in games we've seen. But fortunately, Kansas City hasn't had something like that in quite a while. But for the Chiefs, they just want to walk out of that one. No injuries. Don't put things on film that you don't have to put out there, and just get ready to rest your players. Obviously, there's going to be that 24-day gap between the Christmas Day game and next. I'm assuming it's going to be on a Saturday where the Chiefs starters are going to be playing in a game. Obviously, did not play in the Week 18 game against the Broncos, so this is going to be a game where the Chiefs starters. It'll be very good for them. Plenty of rest, and I don't know. I know a lot of people are bringing up rust and all this stuff. You can't have that opinion because the same people who are bringing up rust and how the Chiefs, it's been more than 3 weeks. Well, first of all, they're not just sitting on the couch eating chips and playing video games. I mean, they're still practicing, they're still training, they're still working out. It's not like they're just sitting at home for the entire holiday break. It's not like that at all. Another thing to keep in mind with this Chiefs team is that a lot of people keep bringing up how they keep playing into late January or February every season. And that people were saying that's going to be part of the reason why the Chiefs don't three-peat, because of the long schedule every year. And that's going to tire the, listen, playing into late February or late January or early February, which Kansas City's been fortunate enough to do for the last several years. I mean, do you think that's really going to matter? Let's just say in week 5. Because by then, I mean, listen, everyone still goes through an offseason. Everyone still has plenty of rest. If you're going to argue, Kansas City season ending 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks later than most teams, I mean, listen, you're arguing the difference of 2 to 5 weeks. Come on now. When you're playing at a championship level, you know how to rest up and all, especially when they have a postseason bye, which Kansas City's had plenty of times, and also that Super Bowl bye that's in there as well. So Kansas City, I mean, listen, the rest that they have right now with the starters, and again, I use that word loosely because, again, they're not just sitting on the couch or just laying in bed for the entire duration of those 24 days. They're still doing stuff. That is going to be important for this Chiefs team. And I think that's going to play a big role when these two teams meet. So Houston's defense, certainly no joke. And by the way, I'm seeing a lot of people on social media say that this is the quote unquote easy game for Kansas City. And I just could not disagree. I mean, listen, I get that people have preferred matchups and all these things, but I don't believe in easy teams in the playoffs. I mean, unless, not that you ever want this to happen, but unless the Texans had all of their key starters injured the week before, I just don't believe in easy games. That does not exist to me. I still remember the 2 times the Giants won the Super Bowl. Both of those postseasons, the Giants were viewed as the easy team to want to play in the playoffs. I still remember that because that was, if I'm not mistaken, the year Eli Manning, the year where they stopped the Patriots from going undefeated. He had 23 touchdowns and 20 picks, if I recall correctly, that stat line. Another team that was viewed as the easy team, the Philadelphia Eagles with Nick Foles. And they won the Super Bowl that year, obviously. Another team that I would say was viewed as the quote-unquote easy team to play, last year's Kansas City Chiefs team. Everybody wanted to play the Chiefs because they just thought their offense was going to be lethargic, or that they weren't going to show up and just drop a bunch of passes, and they would lose, and the opposing team would go on to win, and that the Chiefs would not repeat, rather. So at the end of the day, I don't believe in easy teams in the playoffs. Some people do. That's great. Not me. I don't view it that way. And listen, could this be a blowout game? Sure. Just because it's a blowout doesn't mean it'll be an easy game. Look, I know Buffalo just wanted a blowout, but I would say, I mean, certainly, if you just look at the box score and the final score, sure, you can probably take that, have the takeaway that it was an easy game, but that's not necessarily the case. Buffalo played well, I would argue, from start to finish, but they certainly had some problems in this one with Denver's defense. And I said Denver's defense, I thought, was going to create some problems. I also said they would make it close. Certainly not the case, but Buffalo won this football game, which is what I predicted. My point is, Buffalo didn't have an easy time from start to finish. I'm sure Sean McDermott and Josh Allen would tell you they certainly created some problems in this game for that offense. So my point is, I don't believe in the Texans being the quote-unquote easy team or the easiest team, however you want to word it, because that does not exist in the playoffs. It just does not exist unless they suffered a bunch of injuries and lost a lot of key players the week before while maintaining a big lead. That's the only way I would ever accept that kind of argument here. Obviously, I mentioned the Chiefs the first time these two teams played, despite the Texans being top 5 in takeaways and in sacks, they only gave up 1 sack to Patrick Mahomes, and the Chiefs offense did not commit a single turnover. Now, every game's a different game, of course, and I think anyone that, even the most casual football fan, could tell you that the Texans are definitely going to try something different, and they're going to come with a different approach and a different game plan to try to attack Kansas City in this game. I mean, you would have to, considering they didn't win the first time. I will say, now that we're switching over to the Texans side of the football, the one big concern I do have with the Texans offense would have to be CJ Stroud, and more so his scrambling abilities. I know CJ Stroud didn't necessarily have the nice jump from his rookie season to his second season, though he's won a playoff game his first 2 years in the NFL. Statistically, his second season numbers weren't as flashy, but I'm just looking at his rushing stats this year. There's only one game this year where he has scrambled for more than 50 yards, and that was against the Jets on Halloween. That was a Thursday night game. He scrambled 8 times for 59 yards. Yesterday against the Chargers, CJ Stroud scrambled 6 times for 42 yards. So this is not something we get often from CJ Stroud. Ran 23 times against 23 yards against the Chiefs. Scrambled for 26 against the Cowboys. Had 19 against the Packers, but also scrambled 5 times. So I don't know if there were some QB kneels, or no, there would not be a QB kneel because they lost that game. 27 yards against Buffalo. So I mean, this is a guy who is capable of getting some yards with his feet there. Yesterday was the second best he had in a game all season. And the reason I make a big deal about this is Kansas City, and I brought this up during the Red Friday live chat. So for those of you who missed it, I'll tell you right now, Kansas City has only allowed one 100-yard rusher all year long. And notice I said one 100-yard rusher. I didn't say a running back, because no running back rushed for 100 yards on Kansas City this year. The only person that rushed for 100 yards against the Chiefs this year was in the very first game of this season. That was Thursday night, the season opener against the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, yes, Lamar Jackson is the only 100-yard rusher against Kansas City. And if those two teams were to match up in the AFC Championship game, certainly something Kansas City would need to be much better of. But obviously we'll worry about that when and if those two teams meet in the AFC Championship. If I had to give you my picks, I think that's those are the two teams that'll meet in the AFC title game. But in the meantime, we do have the Texans to worry about right now. So the Chiefs' run defense has been very good all year. Like I said, no running back has been able to surpass the 100-yard rushing mark against the Chiefs. There have been offenses as a team that have been able to run for 100 yards on the Chiefs, but no single individual at the running back spot has been able to do that. Only player, Lamar Jackson, he did that all the way in the very first game of the NFL season there. So that's something Kansas City needs to be ready when facing CJ Stroud, because he certainly took advantage of those holds of the Chargers defense. And the Chargers do have some good players on that defense. I'd argue Kansas City's defense is better as a whole. I know the Chargers, they were number 1 in the NFL in points allowed per game, also number 1 in red zone defense, and they're no longer in the playoffs. Some really good defenses getting knocked out here. You have the Chargers I just mentioned. Kind of went over their highlights from the season. You also have the Broncos, who led the NFL in sacks as a team. They just got knocked out. So we're already seeing, and obviously you guys know me, I've been a big fan of the Steelers defense all year long. We're seeing some really good defenses getting eliminated from the NFL playoffs here. So hopefully Kansas City doesn't allow that. I would say that the offense certainly has gotten better. I know a lot of people out there want to make a big deal about Kansas City not scoring more than 30 points in a game this year. Well, when you're 15-1, do you have to score more than 30 points in a game this year? Certainly Kansas City hasn't had to do that. Only time where they allowed 30 was against Buffalo this year. So this is a football team. And again, like I said earlier, Andy Reid does not put these on film if he doesn't have to. Absolutely not. I know the Bills stayed aggressive. Nothing wrong with that in this game just moments ago against the Broncos. I mean, they were airing it out. They did not give a damn. And I just have a hard time believing Andy Reid would do that kind of thing, because, and I got comments about this last week. Oh, well, there's already 16, 17, 18 weeks of film out there. Yeah, but at the end of the day, every snap, every play, every game matters to coaches. Coaches spend a lot of time studying game film. I don't think a lot of people realize this. Kevin Harlan, he was on Westwood One once calling a Monday Night Football game, and he just kind of gave a shout out to a lot of the assistant coaches, because a lot of them are leaving whenever primetime games are on. So a Monday night or a Thursday night game, coaches spend a lot of hours at the training facility, and a lot of it is studying game film and trying to come up with game plans to stop teams. Andy Reid said this in an interview on Sirius XM NFL Radio, and this was right after the Broncos game where the Chiefs blocked that field goal. And I know a lot of people want to say it was luck, but it really wasn't. I mean, if you think about it, Andy Reid said in that interview that this team will exhaust every opportunity, every avenue to try to figure out what needs to be done to win a football game. And specifically on that blocked field goal right there, Alex Forsyth, he was getting knocked down all game long. It's not like, that was the first time he had ever been knocked down in a field goal unit situation. But it wasn't just that game either. And if you actually go and watch the tape and it's out there, he's been getting knocked down during field goals all year long. Kansas City was just the one team that took advantage of it, and that's why they loaded up that side. But again, studying everything, offense, defense, special teams, whether it's, the return game on kickoff returns, punt returns, field goal setups, punting, all of that stuff. Kansas City studies all of it, and that's why all of their coordinators are very good. I know a lot of people in Kansas City have their opinions about Matt Nagy. I certainly do as well, but there's a reason why he's continuing to get interest for a second chance at being a head coach. There's a reason why Spags is quietly becoming one of the more hot assistant coaches to get a head coaching job. Dave Tobe, I know he was a guy that some people thought would get a head coaching job early on in the Andy Reid era here in Kansas City, but recently not. And if you're a Chiefs fan, no issues about it. Let him stay in Kansas City. So there's a reason why these coaching staffs that Kansas City always builds, and I know they lost some assistant coaches over the years. They always find a way to get the right guys in. So that's why this team's been so successful in the entire Andy Reid era, and certainly took it up a few levels when Patrick Mahomes got to Kansas City. So those are just my quick thoughts on the Chiefs and the Texans here. I know you guys have a lot of thoughts on this upcoming matchup here. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading some of your guys' comments now. Jim says, I just hope this is not another game where they possibly give everyone a heart attack. I mean, listen, I'm already seeing people say that they're predicting a blowout. I'm not putting that, I'm not dismissing that possibility, but I think anyone who watches Chiefs games know that's just not how the way things go. It's just not. And by the way, the last time the Chiefs and the Texans played at Arrowhead for a playoff game, remember that game? Surely you guys all remember that game. Oh, yeah. I certainly remember it. I don't think any Houston Texans fan has interest in remembering that game. But you know what? Let me go ahead and jog everyone's memory here. Oh, yeah, that's right. This happened the last time the Chiefs and Texans played in a playoff game. The Chiefs were down 24-0, and then they went on to outscore the Texans 51-7. The Chiefs scored 51 points in 3 quarters to win this football game. I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people who wrote off the Chiefs at this one, because that was quite a start for Houston. Justin Reed was on the Texans. I believe DeAndre Hopkins was also on the Texans team at the time. I don't believe. I think they were both there, Hopkins and Reed. So there you have it. Texans sometimes have the Chiefs number at home. Not sure at Arrowhead. Yeah, it's been a while since the last, because I think the last time the Chiefs and Texans played, and this is off the top of my head, before when they met 22 days ago, I want to say it was the 2020 season opener when Deshaun Watson was there, and they made a big deal about the divisional round game that I just showed from 2019. That's the last time I can recall. Ben is saying it's a walk in the damn park, 34-20. Okay, I'm not saying I agree with that, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be another one-score game. They played a season worth of playoff games. They certainly have. I mean, they've been playing a lot. They have been playing a lot in the last 6-7 years. Cincinnati will rest the whole team next weekend as well. Oh man, I love all the Cincinnati comments this weekend from Kansas City fans and from non-Kansas City fans. It's pretty funny. Hoping this game is played on a Saturday night. Yeah, so we do not know the schedule yet. So for everyone commenting and begging for me to tell them the schedule as if you guys think I have it, I don't know. Maybe I have the script. Maybe the script's right here. I don't know. You guys think I know everything. I know a lot of things. But I definitely do not know the schedule. And I'll tell you right now, do not expect it to come until either late tonight or sometime early tomorrow. I know that's not what you guys want to hear, but that is how they did it last year. I can't remember exactly what day it was when they announced when the schedule would come out, the divisional round schedule, that is, but that's kind of how it panned out last year. So Expect it to be Sunday night or sometime tomorrow. Yes, I understand. Some of you guys want to book flights, but it's not within my control. Let me see if the betting lines are out for this game. Let me quickly check if DraftKings has them. I would be shocked if they didn't. And they do. The Chiefs are 8.5-point betting favorites. Meanwhile, Buffalo, they're 1.5-point betting favorites over the Ravens. And by the way, it says both games are set to take place Sunday, 2 o'clock. Ignore that. That's just them. They have to put something on those websites. They have to put a date and time. I'm guessing that's part of their system, the way it all works out when they upload something. But yeah, that's obviously not accurate. No easy games. I agree. Yeah. Again, I mean, I get it. I'm not sitting here like if I was a fan of any of those NFC teams, like the Cowboys, the year the Patriots were trying to go undefeated, the Cowboys beat the Giants twice. So yeah, I certainly understand the logic of wanting to play the Giants again, but Giants won the third game. Cowboys won more games against the Giants, but the Giants won the more important one. So, and if I'm not mistaken, I think every game that postseason, the Giants got revenge on every team that beat them earlier this year, including the Patriots. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you just can't ever underestimate any team that's in the playoffs. You just can't. Yeah, they played, and they lost Tank Dell, which is very unfortunate there. They definitely want to come out. I agree with you, Gwen. They definitely want to come out and wanting to avenge that loss and try to win that game for Tank, for sure. Yeah, I mean, sometimes teams are in fuck it mode, Dennis. They just don't give a damn. Okay, so this is a really good question from Jamie. Who's going to start at left tackle? Well, when you had Joe Tooney and Joe Tooney at left tackle and you had Mike Caliendo at left guard, Mahomes was sacked just once. And this is against a team that has 2 edge rushers in the top 10 in sacks. They're in the top 5 in sacks. They're in the top 5 in takeaways. Yet, when the offensive line was playing the way it was against the Texans, the Chiefs had no issues. So again, every game is a different game. I want to be clear about that. But you still want to replicate last game's success and try to improve on things that you could have been better about. I think that's fair to say, right? So put out the same offensive line. And by the way, I put out a post on social media talking about how the Chiefs should keep Joe Tooney at left tackle and Mike Caliendo at left guard. Because listen, I'm not interested in experimenting things in the playoffs. I'm just not. I thought DJ Humphries, and I was a guy that bought into the DJ Humphries hype. I was excited when he came in here. He has not lived up to the hype, not even close to it. He played left tackle against the Broncos, which I thought was a great test because the Broncos led the NFL in sacks. Dude, he just wasn't getting the job done. He even got help on a chip block at one point and just allowed the edge rusher to get around him and to get to Carson Wentz. If Patrick Mahomes does not have a viable left tackle, you could be 1-0 in the playoffs. You could be. And I know what you're all going to say. Farzine, the Chiefs have had 2 bad left tackles each of the last 2 years, and they've won the Super Bowl. I know. Are you guys banking on that to happen for a 3rd consecutive year? I mean, last year the Chiefs had issues, all kinds of issues on offense. The drops were a big one. The offensive tackles were another issue. Do you guys think if the Chiefs had that issue again this year that they'd be in this position right now, 15-1 or 15-2 rather, with the number 1 seed and a chance of three-peat? I certainly don't agree. I don't think I know it happened before, but I would not bank on it to happen again. And there's a reason why the Chiefs went out and got the wide receivers they got. There's a reason why they've tried to improve that offensive line. And, obviously they've gotten the left tackle position wrong over the last few years. But thankfully they have Joe Tooney, and shifting him over to left tackle has certainly alleviated some of those errors there. And I don't necessarily agree with the comments that the running game has gotten worse with Mike Caliendo at left guard. The running game has not been great in general this year. It's been solid. It's been good at times, but I wouldn't say it's anything. It's never been anything flashy this year. It just hasn't been. Eagles are off to a hot start, evidently. I'm not sure what I missed. Apparently I missed something. Oh, a fumble on the kick return. Okay. Well, that's not good if you're Green Bay. Certainly not a good start at all, especially on the opening kickoff there. But we'll see how that goes. Obviously, a lot of game left to play. Lawrence has got to be disciplined from the start and follow Andy's game plan, and that will start the quest for of the infamous three-peat. Yeah. Got to play well for 4 quarters. I know the Chiefs have had their inconsistencies in games this year. I just feel like this Chiefs team, they've got to play their game. I think a lot of times when the Chiefs have lost or have struggled, I think they've hurt themselves. And not that you ever take credit away from anyone. I mean, if they take advantage of your woes and your struggles, that's what NFL teams are supposed to do. You're supposed to capitalize on that kind of thing. But just go out there and be yourselves. And I think the Chiefs will go out there and win for sure. The best thing about next week, Ravens versus Bills, let them knock each other out. Yeah. I know. And again, I know a lot of people want to say the Ravens blew out the Bills the first time they met. That was a Sunday night game, but every game is going to be a different game. I'm really curious to see. I do think the Bills have played much better football. And listen, Bills fans and Ravens fans online, they have been barking at each other over the MVP talk, and Bills fans absolutely not happy over the weekend as the Eagles just scored a touchdown there just a couple of minutes into the game, less than 2 minutes into the game. Bills fans not happy over the fact that Lamar Jackson got first team All-Pro, and the same people who vote for the All-Pro team vote for MVP. So it's a pretty obvious decision at this point as to who voted for who's going to get MVP, because the votes are submitted. They're in. They vote on the MVP ballot the same time they submit the All-Pro ballot. So it's obvious who it's going to be at this point. But I'm sure a lot of people are going to talk about who the better player is depending on who wins this football game. I think that's fair to say. Next week's game is going to be fun. I said for a while, if we do not get a Ravens-Bills matchup in the playoffs, I'd be disappointed. We're getting it, and this is going to be a very fun matchup. So hopefully the Chiefs can take care of their business and win, and they can watch this one. I would imagine this is the last game next weekend, because, I mean, come on, this is obviously a massive matchup here. This has to be like your main event of the divisional round. Yeah, Stroud scrambling, that's 100% something that Kansas City has to be ready for. He did that a little bit against Kansas City, did it more against the Chargers and had a lot of success doing it. Whether it's Drew Tranquill or Nick Bolton or they alternate, Kansas City's defense has to have that QB spy. And I know you're removing one player away in coverage there, but Kansas City's defense has got to be ready. Nick Bolton's been very good against the run, so it would not shock me if he's used more for that QB spy purpose next week. If you do that, I think you've got a very good chance of winning this football game. That's what I think a big factor for next week. Texans offense is horrible. They won't get 20 plus on KC. Herbert threw 4 picks, which contributed to those points. And listen, not all of those interceptions were on Herbert. But I think your point is, Blake, that they got 4 takeaways, and you can't do anything about that. 4 takeaways is 4 takeaways. It doesn't matter if it bounces off the hands of the tight end or whoever. And yeah, Houston certainly capitalized on those things. Kind of what I was saying earlier. I just think Kansas City, I know they had some issues taking care of the football earlier in the season. They have been much better about it in the last 7 games, even against the Broncos. That loss there didn't commit a turnover. I know it doesn't really matter because the starters were not playing in that one, or played very, very little from those who did, outside of Brian Cook. But anyway, the point still stands here. During the 6 games Kansas City won in between week 18 and the Buffalo game, they did not commit a single turnover there. And I think Patrick Mahomes has done a much better job taking care of the football. So this is definitely a game where if you're Kansas City, that is what you want to continue doing into the playoffs. Because I think a lot of people will agree, if you win the turnover battle a majority of the time, you'll win the game. And that is obviously going to be the big difference maker there. What was the turnover battle last time these two teams played? I mentioned Kansas City did not commit a turnover. CJ Stroud threw 2 picks. Did they fumble the ball ever? No, those were the only 2 interceptions there of the game, and those were from CJ Stroud. So gotta be better about that kind of thing. Be good, taking care of the football, and force turnovers. Kansas City had not forced a lot of turnovers this year, but in those 3 games in 11 days, that just flipped. Got 1 million against the Browns, got a couple against the Texans, and a couple more against the Steelers. So, and listen, the Browns, I mean, obviously they've got a bad player, so that's not anything to really brag about, but the Texans, I mean, that's a good football team. I know I said earlier CJ Stroud's numbers haven't been as good, but he's still one of the more reliable quarterbacks in the NFL today. And I know the Steelers offense, they have not been very good this year. We saw that yesterday in the playoff game, but still, that was a team at the time still had a little bit of a chance, just a little bit, had a shot at the number 1 seed. And they were also fighting to stay in first place in their division. So Pittsburgh, I mean, it's not like they just went in there playing for possibly a top 5 pick in the draft. I mean, they were in the playoffs already, and they were trying to win the division and maintain a good seed going into the playoffs there. So Beach literally got a free agent at every level on offense and defense, except for the quarterback. You mean this past off season, or just in general his entire time with the Chiefs? Who do you think will win, Ravens versus Bills? Well, so far my bracket is looking fairly good. Got Chargers and Texans wrong, but I did say the Ravens and Bills would play each other, and I picked the Ravens, so I'm going to stick with that. The Ravens just look really good. And by the way, I mentioned earlier how Andy Reid doesn't want to put things on film. John Harbaugh did the same thing in yesterday's game. I mean, they were up 28-14. Could have scored a lot more if they wanted to. It's not like Pittsburgh was doing anything to stop them, but they didn't bother doing that. Oh, and by the way, who did John Harbaugh one coach under? That's right, Andy Reid. Makes you kind of wonder. I mean, there's a reason why coaches do certain things, and especially when they come from certain coaching trees, you notice a pattern there. Yeah, Tyler, I think that's what a lot of people are kind of hoping for because, again, obviously you were without Hollywood Brown, who was a huge part of your offense as far as practices go in OTAs and training camp. Look, I know looking back this season, even though the Chiefs are 15-2 with a 1 seed and a chance to go in a Super Bowl for the 3rd year in a row, I still think a lot of times people are going to look back at the season and kind of wonder what could have been and what should have been, all of that stuff, woulda, coulda, shoulda, because of the fact that, you came into this season with Xavier Worthy, who has gotten better and better each week, especially during the second half of the season. Hollywood Brown, not putting up monster numbers, but he certainly helped the offense kind of elevate their game a little bit since his return, even though it was just 2 games. DeAndre Hopkins doing what he's doing right now. Because when you look at who you had during training camp and really the offseason, you had Worthy, Rice, and Hollywood. You swapped out Rice for Hopkins because Rice on IR and Hopkins you acquired during the season. So you essentially kind of have the same group of guys, just one player different here. And McCole Hardman's expected to come back. He's done some really good things when it comes to rushing. So I kind of wonder if the Chiefs utilize him more when it comes to those end arounds, because they like doing that with Xavier Worthy. McCole Hardman has the third highest yard per carry average in the NFL this year. Obviously has fewer carries doing so. That's why it's high. But bottom line is he takes advantage when the ball's in his hand on an end around or whatever, or reverse. So do the Chiefs do more of that with him if he does come back? That's certainly something to look out for. Yeah, sorry. And listen, they're not the same team either. They have changed a lot as well. Managed not to get sacked this weekend. That's great. That's great. Chiefs ready to play should be Sunday primetime. Yeah, I disagree, Timothy. I think it's going to be. I think that's going to be the Saturday game. I mean, listen, we don't know what the NFL is going to do. If they want, they could schedule two AFC teams on the same day. I don't think we see that in the divisional round ever. Not every year, but we do see from time to time. Back when it was 4 games in the wild card, we would occasionally see 2 AFC games on a Saturday and then 2 NFC games on a Sunday. Obviously, it's changed now because we have 6 games on wild card weekend. But we'll see what they do. We just kind of have to wait on the schedule. I think it's going to be on a Saturday. Oh, that's right, TJ. Thank you. I completely forgot about the game. That was the infamous Chiefsaholic is missing game. I don't know why, but that's what I thought of right away when you said that. The Chiefs are 7. I had it earlier. What was it? 8.5 points. The Chiefs are 8.5 point betting favorites. Yes. So place your bets. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think that's a little disrespectful to the Texans, if I'm being honest. But we'll see. The 13th man. What about the 12th man, Timothy? I mean, if there's a 13th man, surely there's got to be a 12th, right? By the way, speaking of controversies and all these things here, I just want to put this up here real quickly. Buffalo fans, congratulations on your win today. Well-deserved, well-earned. However, I do not want to hear jack shit from Buffalo fans ever again when it comes to officiating right there. You literally have Bill Vinovic going over to Josh Allen, tapping him on the shoulder, tapping him on the helmet, coddling him on the sideline the way he is. Like if this was Patrick Mahomes, people would be hiring private investigators to look into this. So I don't want to hear any bitching and moaning from non-Chiefs fans ever again about officiating. Because I've never seen that before. I have never seen an official go talk to the quarterback on the sidelines there. That has never happened. Yeah, so far. I mean, I'm talking to you guys, so I'm not really paying close attention, but Philadelphia already got the ball back, and it's 11:35 to go and rolling here. Did they get another takeaway? I mean, is Green Bay that unprepared? That didn't look like a catch, but they went with it. What happens if they do three-peat? Does everyone retire on top? It's a great way to go out, right? I mean, you can finish your career that way. Kelsey, I'll give it a maybe. Andy Reid, maybe. Andy Reid, people keep thinking every year he's going to retire, and he just doesn't. People thought he was going to retire after Super Bowl 57 against the Eagles. Didn't retire. People thought the same thing last year, especially if the Chiefs won. Well, all of the above happened except for Andy Reid retiring. So I don't know. Travis Kelce certainly looks like he's gotten slower. Obviously, his stats are going down. He's still one of the better tight ends in the league. Like, you're not going to find a lot of tight ends that are better than him statistically. The tight end position has kind of taken a step back the last 2 seasons. So I mean, listen, I've kind of compared him to The Rock, who obviously was thriving in WWE. But what happened to him? He was so popular that Hollywood came calling, and he decided to leave pro wrestling, not put his body on the line through all the grueling schedule that wrestlers go through. And he's making a lot more money in Hollywood. So, Travis Kelce, I would imagine the same thing. He's obviously got a really good career going for him right now in the entertainment world. And certainly it can get better if he has more free time. So, yeah, I would not be shocked if this was. That's a perfect way to go out. Tooney is dying a slow death at left tackle. That's better than Morris and Kingsley, I suppose. Packers pulled the Sky Moore. That is never a description anyone wants to receive. So if that's a description you're giving me, I think I got the image of what's going on so far in this game. Hell no. I am keeping that one, Joshua. You know this one. Yeah, but Brad, once the All-Pro team came out, they immediately took the odds down. I mean, Josh Allen was the or the late leader, I guess, the last leader, but I agree with you, Gwen. If I had a vote, he gets my vote. But they don't give it to non-quarterbacks anymore. They just don't, which I think is stupid. Chiefs win 13-6. Nick Bolton to score a pick six, two safeties, and a defensive 2-point conversion. Richard, I don't know what you're smoking today, but go place that bet because that payout for that would have to be massive. Nick Bolton, your sole scorer. By the way, I was thinking about this the other day. 100%, he should have had 2 touchdowns in that Super Bowl. That second one, I'm sorry. I'm not convinced that he didn't have possession. No. So we haven't talked about this yet, but Gwen mentions being able to defend Nico Collins because he certainly played much better in yesterday's game compared to the last 4 games. That was his best game since December the 1st. Jalen Watson's coming back. He is expected to return. He's on that 21-day window right now, the practice window, that is. So if he does play, I hope he's, cleared, medically cleared and physically ready to go because Kansas City could really use him. That would be a big difference maker. I know a lot of people outside of Kansas City may not know the name Jalen Watson. But if you really, really, really follow all 32 teams closely, you'll know why this is a big deal to Kansas City's defense. I mean, that's the guy that's replacing L'Jarius Sneed, and he's done a really good job doing that this year. Unfortunately, got hurt in that 49ers game, but if he comes back, that's going to be massive. Herbert just chucked the ball down the field like, screw it. There's a Texan somewhere down there. Yeah, he did. He certainly. And listen, CJ Stroud didn't really play the greatest game either. He had an interception in this one. He maybe could have, should have, would have had 2. I think Derwin James, just a tiny bit of the ball hit the ground and they decided to call it incomplete. But CJ Stroud didn't really play the cleanest game either. Got sacked 3 times in this one. Threw a pick. Could have maybe had another one. I know Joe Mixon lost a fumble in this one. The wide receiver also fumbled and lost there. The Chargers got off to a good start in this game. They just did nothing at all after that, except for one good play. And even when the Chargers had something good happen, something bad had to happen, where the kicker, I think, just panicked and decided to swat the football, thinking it was going to be ruled incomplete when that's not at all what happened, or not at all what the rule is. And Houston got 2 points out of that. So, by the way, how many times did CJ Stroud get sacked? He got sacked twice against Kansas City. Okay. Who were those 2 guys? Josh Williams and Mike Pennell. Okay. Yeah, I think this is also the game Chris Jones got hurt. So we'll see. Andy Reid did say a lot of the guys who've been dealing with injuries, Isaiah Pacheco, Chris Jones, Shamari Connor, Jawan Taylor, all of them practice on Friday. So that is good news there. Yeah, what is the weather looking like for next week's game? If it's on a Saturday, there's a 30% chance of snow, high of 33. If it's on a Sunday, high of 21 and cloudy. So that is, I never take these early forecasts seriously. I know there's like a 25-day forecast out there that you can check out. I don't know what the accuracy is on those kinds of things, but I almost never take those seriously. Think the Ravens run them over? Yeah, I think the Ravens will win that game. I want it to be Buffalo because I want the Chiefs to avenge that loss. But I think there are a lot of people that would love to see a Baltimore Kansas City rematch, considering how things ended. And I think it was the player who stepped out of bounds. Likely, I think he even made a comment saying that we'll see them again. Okay, let's make that happen. Dude, Steelers. Here's what I do. Anytime there's an NFL game where something big happens and something really bad goes against a team, whoever that team is that loses, I'll look up their local sports talk stations and I will turn on the post game show because I want to hear from those fans and see what they're thinking. Dude, Pittsburgh's post game show last night on their local sports talk stations, dude, it was just a firestorm. Everybody wanted what's his name? The head coach. He's been there for a million years after Bill Cowher. I can't think of his name right now. You guys will remind me in a second, I'm sure. They want him gone, is what I'm trying to say. A Chiefs Aholic commercial to motivate the team. I suppose. They didn't need one last year or the year before. We do not know, Alonda. We don't know the date or the time yet. Yeah, I saw that. My guess is Saturday, though. If Andy goes, how could they not make a pitch to Ben Johnson? Who wouldn't want to have Mahomes as their QB? I mean, I don't think that's going to happen, Chris. But I mean, Ben Johnson, yeah, he's certainly getting a lot of attention out there for sure. I think by the time the Chiefs, let's say Andy Reid does retire, hypothetically speaking, if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, by the time Kansas City season is over, they're not going to be a lot of good candidates available. I mean, there's a downside to playing in the late February or late January and early February every year. You're going to pick late in the draft every year. If you need to get any replacements for coaches, that's also going to happen after a lot of the candidates are gone. There aren't going to be a lot of options. So, a big sack right there. Was that Slay? Oh no, it was Smith. Yeah, the kicker got trucked. I was just like, that poor kicker. I mean, he's gonna hear he's in pain, and he's also gonna hear it from the coaches. No, not really. I mentioned today he's only been sacked once in the last 6 games. He got sacked twice today, maybe a third time that I might have missed, but yeah, didn't get sacked much today, but still more in the in some of the. I think the last 2 times the Chiefs have played Allen, both in November and last year in the divisional round when Bass missed that field goal. He has not been sacked once by Kansas City, which is a concern given how good Kansas City is at getting to the quarterback. So hopefully Minhu's availability can make a difference. I don't know if Joshua Uche is going to be part of the rotation for that game if the Chiefs were to play the Bills again. Got to be better. Got to be better for sure. Tomlin. Okay, yeah, Mike Tomlin, yeah. Yeah, that's a name I couldn't think of for whatever reason. They're usually better than this. Um, if Andy leaves, Spags should get it. Hire Gruden to run the defense. Yeah, but Gruden's more of an offensive guy, if I'm not mistaken. Plus, I don't think Gruden would settle for an assistant job, would he? I have a hard time believing he would. I just don't think that would happen. Listen, I know the Jets are kind of a mess and everything, but that would be worth it for him to go to because that is his home area. If they're paying good money, yeah, I could see, I could definitely see Spags taking that job because he's 65, right? So you go there 2 to 3 years, and if you're making a lot of money, despite things just not working out well, you get let go. Might be a good way to go ahead and retire. And I don't think a lot of people would hold it against him because, I mean, listen, the Jets have struggled immensely, really since Rex Ryan. I mean, and not to say Rex Ryan was amazing, but he did have 2 really good seasons with the Jets at one point. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there. All right, I'm caught up on the comments, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Hey, I appreciate you guys joining me for this pop-up episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. So for all of you who watch live on Facebook and YouTube, also decided to turn on the Instagram live for this one as well. So I appreciate all of you who tuned in live for this episode. We will be back on Monday. We'll talk more tomorrow evening. We'll try to do it before the playoff game. Discussing the Chiefs and the Texans, some of the other wild card reactions, a lot of things to go over. We'll also do a podcast on Tuesday. And then I'm not sure exactly when we'll do the pregame podcast, breaking down the game between the two teams. We got to wait for the schedule to find out, when, because if you play on a Saturday, the schedule is going to be a little different in terms of practices and the injury report, all of that stuff. So it's a little easier to wait a day later than we normally do on a Wednesday. So we'll have to see when the schedule comes out, and it'll be easy to determine when we'll do the pregame podcast, breaking things down. But otherwise, just keep it locked right here. Make sure you're following me on all the social media. You'll be notified as soon as we go live, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube. So make sure you're following on all of those platforms, and we're going to have a lot to discuss as the week goes on. So Kansas City, off football this weekend. They're going to be back next week playing the Houston Texans. We'll have a lot to discuss as the week goes on. Hey, I appreciate you guys all joining me. I'm Farzin Vasugian. Appreciate you guys listening to the Chiefs Zone podcast. I'm out. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.